Always try to start with an instrumental, no matter. Okay. Okay, let's start with a joke. I found a good one. I think you'll like. And then we'll get on to the next installment of Obligated Whisper. Don't worry, it's right here. See? Promised you. It's a big, thick book. It's going to take us, I don't know, till I die to finish it or something. All right. Okay. This is again from more of the world's best dirty jokes, Mr. J, avoiding the racist jokes and just sticking with the dirty ones. All right, here we go. I think you'll like this one. I don't know. Maybe you won't. But that's okay. It's just a joke. The Pope had been sick for a number of months, and experts were called in from all over the world. But no one could diagnose his illness. Finally, a doctor from Switzerland came and immediately hit upon the cause of the problem. He said to the Pope, "Your Holiness, because you have lived in a celibate state all your life, your seminal fluids have built up and are literally choking you to death. Therefore, there is only one cure. You must have sexual intercourse with a woman." The Pope cried out in dismay, "But I can't! I can't! You know the vows I've taken. I just cannot." The doctor replied, "But your Holiness, if you don't do this, you will condemn yourself to death. This, too, is also a mortal sin." The Pope pondered the problem and said, "I will retire to my room for 3 days of prayer, and then I will make a decision." At the end of the 3 days, he telephoned the doctor in Switzerland and said, "My decision has been made. I will do what you direct, but please be sure that she has big tits. I don't know about you, but I thought that was, I like that one. Okay. Oh, and then I always try to, this is from the complete poems of Anne Sexton. And I found one that I liked. Hold on. I need to take a sip here. No hurry. Well, there's a picture of her. I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of Anne Sexton, but there she is. Very lovely gal. Here we go. Does it? Hold on. Oh. Okay. And this is written March of 1965. Let's read an Anne Sexton poem, okay? Okay. We're live. A little uncomplicated hymn for joy is what I wanted to write. There was such a song for your knee bones, a song for your ribs, those delicate trees that bury your heart. Hold on, I'm looking for something here. Oh, there it is. Okay. A song for your bookshelf, where 20 hand-blown ducks sit in a Venetian row. A song for your dress-up high heels, your fire-red skateboard, your 20 grubby fingers. The pink knitting that you start and never quite finish. Your poster paint pictures, all angels making a face. A song for your laughter that keeps wiggling a spoon in my sleep. Even a song for your night, as during last summer's heat wave. Tulip, down, down, down. I'm still trying to teach my kitten that the kitchen shelves are off limits to her. Sorry about that. As during last summer's heat wave, where your fever stuck at 104 for 2 weeks, where you slept head on the windowsill, lips as dry as old erasers, your thirst shimmering and heavy as I spooned water in, your eyes shut on the thumping June bugs, the lips moving, mumbling, sending letters to the stars, dreaming, your body a boat, rocked by your life and my death. Your fist wound like a ball, little fetus, little snail, carrying a rage, a leftover rage I cannot undo. Even a song for your flight, where you fell from the neighbor's tree hut, where you thought you were walking onto solid blue air. You thought, why not? And then you simply left the boards behind and stepped out into the dust. Oh, little Icarus, you chewed on a cloud, you bit the sun and came tumbling down headfirst, not into the sea, but hard on the hard-packed gravel. You fell on your eye, you fell on your chin. What a shiner, what a feint you had. And then crawled home, a knocked-out Humpty Dumpty, into my arms. Oh, Humpty Dumpty girl, I named you Joy. That's someone's song all by itself. In the naming of you, I named all things you are, except the ditch where I left you once, like an old root that wouldn't take hold. That ditch where I left you while I sailed off in madness. Over the buildings and under my umbrella, sailed off for 3 years, so that the first candle and the second candle and the third candle burn down alone on your birthday cake. That ditch I want so much to forget, and that you try each day to forget. Even here in your school portrait, where you repeat third grade, caught in the need not to grow, that little prison. Even here, you keep up the barrier with a smile that dies afraid as it hides your crooked front tooth. Joy, I call you, and yet your eyes just here, with their shades half drawn over the gun sights, over your gigantic knowledge. Over the little blue fish who dart back and forth, over different streets, the strange rooms, other people's chairs, other people's food, ask, why was I shut in the cellar? And I've got words. Words that dog my heels. Words for sale, you might say, and multiplication cards and cursive writing that you ignore to teach my fingers. The cat's cradle and the witch's broom. Yes, I have instructions before dinner and hugs after dinner, and still those eyes away, away, asking for hymns without guilt. And I can only say a little uncomplicated hymn is what I wanted to write. And yet I find only your name. There was such a song, but it's bruised. It's not mine. You will jump to it someday, as you will jump out of the pitch of this house. It will be a holiday, a parade, a fiesta, and then you'll fly. You'll really fly. After that, you'll quite simply, quite calmly, make your own stones, your own floor plan, your own sound. Cats. I wanted to write such a poem with such musics, such guitars going. I tried at the teeth of sound to draw up such legions of noise. I tried at the breakwater to catch the star off each ship. And at the closing of hands, I looked for their houses and silences. I found just one. You were mine, and I lent you out. I look for uncomplicated hymns, but love has none. And that is, I think she had a title for that. The title of that poem was A Little Uncomplicated Hymn. I gotta put the owl lights on. It sounds like I'm saying owl lights, doesn't it? But I'm saying owl lights. There's a difference. Okay, is that a little better? And then we'll get into owl. Let's get into the mood here, huh? Oops. That should work. guess we're starting chapter 4 today. Looks like. I'm gonna clip my little reader's light on here. See the little reader's light. And then, I don't know if we want to turn that off. I think we can just turn that off. There we go. I like the mood of darkness. Here we go. Chapter 4. Blue Jay. It is better to have less thunder in the mouth and more lightning in the hand. Apache proverb. You are not listening to a word we are saying, Chief. The council elder for the Mescalero Apache tribes of central New Mexico spoke into the microphone. His name was Eli Lobo. He addressed the United States official with the time-honored chief as tongue-in-cheek. Tongue-in-chief. All the elders were present for this meeting held by the Nuclear Regulatory Bureau, otherwise known as the NRB, and the Department of Energy, otherwise known as DOE, or DOE. They were being faced with serious offers, proposals, and semi-negotiable overtures. Eli was nonplussed, however, since the committee's main objective was to be given complete permission to dump harmful nuclear wastes onto a sizable area of their reservation. The committee, led by a Mr. Earl Hone, the Apache elders at the time jokingly referred to as his initials, EH or Eh, was a determined nuclear proponent and was not easily deterred or given to surrender in any of his endeavors. But, Mr. Lobo, sir, I believe I have been listening. I'm listening so well, I'm kicking in the tune of not one, but two. I repeat, $2 billion to the already fair offer of $90 million to the deal. You cannot get much richer from us than that, Mr. Lobo. We need this land, and we need to stake off boundaries someplace we can get to. Governmental walls far from your towns and far from any potential dangers to any people whatsoever. How could anyone, any leader in their right mind refuse such an offer? Poverty would become a thing of the past for your people. This money could be used for more profit. Invested wisely, it could be used for casinos, tourist centers, trail posts, hotels, malls, and so on. Not to mention hospitals, educational facilities, the likes your people have never known. I'm guessing that might be using up only $1 billion of the $2.09 billion you'd still be receiving. The rest, sir, can be used for whatever your honored minds can think of. Retire your days in wealth, Mr. Lobo. Retire for you and your next 7 generations. Eli showed no indication of what he was thinking, but stared coldly ahead, never losing eye contact from the deal-making businessman, Mr. Hone. How does this government man stand to twist expressions the native peoples of North America spoke in reverence so many, many years ago? His mouth gained volume. I will not tell you exactly what is running through my head at the misconceptions you utter with reference to the 7 generations. I will, however, tell you where you are mistaken. I will speak in words all can understand, but not in the government's law speak, which only business and political people lip service with such reverence. Back in 1945, your government ended World War II essentially with the dropping of a nuclear nightmare you called the Little Boy. This invention, you called it, yet it was nothing more than a discovery, exploded 580 meters above Hiroshima, Japan. Human beings were scorched black and solidified in their tracks the moment your nuclear bomb made impact. Women were witnessed standing frozen in running postures, babies held tightly in their arms, charred, disgraced like so much bad weeds. 70,000 human lives immediately were snuffed out by your weapon of mass destruction. Your Truman deemed somehow necessary. Only 4 short days later, your leaders decided to drop a second nuclear weapon, a bomb you called the Fat Man. It immediately claimed another 40,000 lives. The number of human beings killed who slowly died from both bombs were over 250,000 over the following 5 years. All your reasons for the second bomb had to do with world domination or an excuse to further experiment its destructive capabilities on life forms. Take your pick. After your nuclear fireworks show, every child born on this planet would never know life without the threat of nuclear weapons. You were, from that moment on and until today, the commander-in-chief of the world. And what you once called democracy is no more. From 1945 on, your people began the modern superstate. The natural order of things was toppled upside down. Mother Earth was held at bay forever, disregarded behind your doors of security and secrecy. Your America became a classified nation. All in one moment in time, you became both fearsome and fearful. Eli Lobo paused and reached for his cup of water. I had a dream a few weeks ago. He held his white porcelain cup toward the business-suited men before him. In this dream, the waters from the mountains cascaded toward not the Mescalero Apache Reservation, but toward the larger cities of Albuquerque, Taos, Santa Fe, and at last the atomic city of Los Alamos. The waters were angry, and they descended like a flood, wiping away all of the cities and townships I just mentioned. All that was left of New Mexico, Arizona, and parts of Colorado were the Apache, Pueblo, Hopi, and Navajo reservations, untouched, spared. Eli tipped his cup, allowing the contents to spill onto the floor beside him. You speak of money. Lots of it. Money made off of dumping and storing tons of nuclear waste you claim is and will be forever more safe to our peoples. But gentlemen, who are we fooling here? We are not the same quote-unquote red man you fooled when you forced us to sign your lying papers some 200 years past. We have learned the logistics of how your people control things. We have our own leaders, our elders. We have our own men and women educated in your law now. He placed the cup back down and paused as he stared at the microphone sitting in front of him. The waters in the dream, gentlemen, were not clear. They shone like the silver of a mercury-laden cesspool of uranium and titanium. The color of the sickness you hope to dump on our lands, contained in the colossal containers each one of us here knows cannot remain contained for more than some few hundred years, was the color of chemicals, of poison. And a few hundred years is a best case scenario. Eventually they will corrode, and that seventh generation you attempted to respectfully make reference to will experience the sort of death none of us would wish on our worst enemies. Your own sons and daughters, Mr. Hone, are a part of those generations, by the way. He gave his coffee mug to a nearby student, asking for a refill, laughing, promising it would serve no further purpose other than quenching an old man's thirst. After Little Boy and Fat Man, the modern white man's mythos, your scientists and your government were at a crossroad. Thousands of your own people were now employed in the business of producing nuclear weapons, even though the war was over. You had to make a decision. Within 2 years, you made that decision. You came up with new terms and new terminologies. Cold War was the thematic one, and it worked to keep the fear within your sheep-like people. I believe the current label they call these types is sheeple. Your scientists' next steps were to invest in and invent even bigger bombs. Soon enough, you devised the thermonuclear weapon, 1,000 times more powerful than those bombs you dropped on Japan. These new weapons had unlimited destructive potential. The young woman returned with the cup of water. Thank you, ma'am. And so now it's almost 1990. Your government and others saw there might be a silver lining to the new nuclear toys, and your government initiated what they saw as the so-called positive side. You began promoting nuclear power as a way to produce electricity. You even sold it as clean energy. You sold it as cheap and clean. Wow. Wow, what a sales pitch. He took a short sip. In the United States, this peaceful means provided your government with a much-needed remedy to its stained determination for escalating your nuclear weapons programs while simultaneously producing a popular new one with one main objective: winning public acceptance of your now very expensive arsenal. Your so-called cutting-edge technology fooled the American sheeple. You made promises nuclear energy would prove so cheap it would not even be able to meter. And again, promises with folks' pocketbooks, sirs. All of these promises were made while they were used to divert everyone's attentions away from the covert nuclear weapons strategies you continued to foster. These elite government officials, with their circles of scientists, were in on all of the activities behind closed doors. And yet, even so, with your underground tests, we were made aware of them. The blasts could not be hidden behind any door. And yet, somehow you all thought there would be a way to get out of the hole you dug for us all. Mr. Holmes sat with his eyes half glazed, waiting for Mr. Lobo to conclude his diatribe and historical denunciation. Eli had just given a short history of the country's irrational tests and their need for a dumping grounds, no matter where, despite there being nowhere safe for such disposals. They tried the oceans and deserts, and now they were trying to talk various public parks, native lands, and reservations into such risky activities. Some tribal leaders were tempted to take the bait. With property at an all-time high and educational funds at an all-time low, some tribal leaders worked out deals with the nuclear industry, partly from desperate economic conditions, partly from greed, unwise accommodations, and decisions were made on certain reservations across the nation. And not one of the contracts signed were there ever any compensations allowed should the unlikelihood of a nuclear accident or catastrophe occur. Unfortunately for them, some tribal leaders became pawns to the nuclear power industry, just as their forefathers were to the European treaties holding them bound for generations. Mr. Lobo, my favorite lands of New Mexico are in this area. My children, my family often hike these mesas and mountains. You are not reading my intentions with an open mind nor heart. No offense, Mr. Hone, but my people since Cochise and Geronimo have always had open hearts. But when you assume our minds are just as open, you'll find our learning in these matters have good reason to close the doors you assume should be always open to you. We know more than you apparently realize. And the meeting was over. Just like that, it ended as an impasse. Eli left the building, shaking the hands of all who opposed him and his tribe. When he got to Mr. Hone, Eli smiled. You know the carpet is not ruined from my little spill. That much was clear. Mr. Holmes shook Mr. Lobo's hand. He did not return the smile. I can't help but think of my friend Rufina Laws, who fought this. She ended up in the Rolling Stone magazine. I think it was called Cochise versus Geronimo, the descendants of those two people. She's a friend of mine, and she's still living to this day. I think she's about 80 years old right now. And we talk on the phone about, I don't know, once a month, I guess. She's trying to get the book out there with Steven Seagal and people like Bonnie Raitt and others. Anyway, let's continue. Rune returned with a stone bucketful of the Mirrocross water. By now, Moontree was chatting with 3 of the 4 sisters. Cooler was unconscious from pain. "Here's the water now," said Moontree as he noticed Rune entering the room. The 3 girls drank deeply as Rune went over to Cooler. "Wake up, Cooler. It's me, Rune," he said softly. He placed his small pink hand under her head and raised it an inch. Her eyes opened only slightly. Who is ruined? We're ruined?" Rune laughed, a minuscule laugh. No, Cooler. I'll give you the haps later. Now, you had a bad accident. You need to drink some Mirrocross, Heartbeat. Here, my friend Moontree has some for you. But am I home? Where are my parents? Where are my sisters? Your sisters are right here, said Moontree, reaching for the light rock from his pocket. They're soft but solid. Your parents are safe too. Oh, you have a light rock, she said, wincing as she tried to get up. Only captains have. Careful, sister, said Illy. I think your right leg is in agony, and we need to find you a healer as soon as we can. Little Owlite and Shine looked up towards their eldest sister, their eyes shiny bright, their mouths slitted with delicate smiles as they heaved and handed the rocky container back to Illy. For now, take some deep drinks, Cooler. The 6 of them sat and drank the sweet, nourishing water until Moontree suggested they try to get back to the Great Hall. Both he and Rune knew the urgency of their people, and even though they knew no If would ever leave another If to ill fate, they also knew the sooner they returned, the sooner everyone could follow whatever the direction of the captains were by now giving. It won't move. My leg, Cooler hissed through clenched teeth hoarsely. Then I'll carry you, said Rune with no hesitation. But we're the same size, Rune, she said. What are you doing? What are you doing? No. Come here. I've got a cat. Come on. What are you doing? Oh, time to... Oh, she's young enough. I got a kitten. I caught a kitten. Look, I got a kitten. Come on, go back and... Come on. There we go. Sorry, interrupted by a kitten. And what did we knock down on the floor? Oh, nothing serious. Okay. Sorry about that, a little interruption. Where was I? It won't move my leg, Cooler hissed through her clenched teeth hoarsely. Then I'll carry you, said Rune with no hesitation. Cats. But we're the same size, Rune, she said. I'll muck you and my sisters backward. No. You all go and I will find everyone when I'm better. I know where the Mirrocross waters are. I'll be set. In that moment, Rune knew 2 things. If she stayed behind, her chances of survival were next to nothing. And if he didn't pick her up right then, he never would. Not a sense of sight in that cooler, he said tightly as he bent his shaking knees. Up now. The journey is 2 rattles of a snake's tail back to the hall. Now make your lips disappear and save your energies. Cooler had always sensed Rune's affection for her went further than that of tribe. But she never let on. My hero, she sang in his almost invisible ear, and she placed her arms about his neck as the 6 made for Great Hall. At times, Moontree would alternately pick up Owlite or Shine as needed when large misplaced boulders proved too steep for the little ones to jump over or off of. Eventually, they found their way, even though the going was slow. One of the best attributes Ifs possessed was patience. And theirs eventually did meet the sounds of the monk-like chants where the girls' parents, waiting eagerly, greeted them with shrieks of joy. Flutterby, too, came rushing up like a leaf-filled autumn wind until all the women and father embraced in a huddle, which from above looked like a mass of bobbing pink beach balls. You know, because they're all bald. I don't know why I made these creatures bald. It just seemed appropriate. You done it. You dug deep into her heart with that act, little brother, Moontree said, smiling at the exhausted Rune. You making on me? Moontree tisked. My hero, he imitated in a high voice, teasingly. He giggled and slapped his friend's back smartly. By this time, Captain Agard had wormed his way through the crowd, rounded up some shamans and healers, and led them to the wounded and weary Wagdigger girls. Within a further pebble's throw, Salaman found Rune and Moontree. Well done, sons. All now are safe and gathered. We can move on as planned. I've counseled a migration southeast, and all the captains are in accord. Smell the air, Moontree, for yours is the keenest nose I've known. Tell me what it tells you. It's death, Salaman. Just as the others have surmised, he sighed, and pointed his stalactite staff toward the entrance of Great Hall. This time we will not be distracted by vain words. They all turned in unison and followed their old captain. Salaman glanced over his shoulders and looked directly at Moontree. Salaman's hand was extended. My rock? Moontree reached into his deep wool pocket and procured the glowing stone. Sorry. No sorriness needed, young Moontree. An expected recovery is all I sought. As Cooler witnessed the exchange, she whispered to Illy, her sister, So they are still only scouts. But cute as Baby Bat's eyes, all the same. That's a good place to close for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this reading from Obligated Whisper. You can get it on Amazon as a paperback. And you can also get it as a hardcover, which I recommend. It's so much nicer. But you can only get the hardcover on lulu.com. That would be lulu.com. And then once you get in there, just either type in my last name or, Peter Gullerud or Gullerud or Obligated Whisper, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it. It's like another $10 or whatever for the hardcover, I think. Something like that. I think it's worth it. So much nicer. But but the paperback's good too. I'm still waiting for reviews. So if anybody who's read this and wants to review it, I certainly would appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed tonight's reading. I'll be back soon. Good night.